Now, time to start your day with all the news you're waking up to on Good Morning Britain.
Good morning, Britain. A message from Kate to thank GMB viewers. After the death of her husband, Derek Draper, Kate thanks all of you for your love and support. We'll be paying tribute this morning to Derek, Kate and their family.
Also this morning, could there be even more victims of the post office scandal? Fears that dozens more workers have been wrongly prosecuted after taking part in a pilot scheme of the faulty computer system 4 years before the software was then rolled out across the country, leading, of course, to hundreds of sub-postmasters being falsely accused of fraud and theft.
In her first live television interview, we'll be joined by former sub-postmistress Jess Corr, who tried to take her own life after being accused of stealing thousands. She'll share the life-changing effects the scandal still has on her. She's with us at 7:30.
Cracking down on the school skivers. 1 in 5 children in England are persistently missing classes. But whose responsibility is it to make sure that kids don't skip school? Is it the teachers or the parents? That's our debate after 8.
And from the big floods to the big freeze, Britain braces itself for plummeting temperatures.
Well, many parts of England are still looking like this, including Tewkesbury, which has taken a real battering from the floods. But now the warnings are for cold weather, with health alerts issued for the vulnerable right across England.
And the rain has stopped falling, but the next warnings are for snow and ice as the outlook stays cold for the next few days.
Monday, 8th of January, 2024. Live from Television Centre in London, this is Good Morning Britain with Susanna Reid and Richard Madeley.
Good morning, Britain. On Friday, Kate Garraway revealed the heartbreaking news that her husband, Derek Draper, had died due to complications caused by COVID. After almost 4 years since becoming ill, Derek suffered a cardiac arrest in December, from which he never recovered.
In his final hours, their children, Darcy and Billy, were able to say their goodbyes to their father. And Kate, as always, was by Derek's side. She was holding his hand. This morning, our thoughts and our love go out to all of them.
And we are inundated this morning, of course, with messages of support and love that you have sent to Kate and to the family. And, of course, we will pass those on to her. Yesterday afternoon, Kate found the strength and courage to write down her thoughts and, in a typically selfless style, express her thanks to you. She sent this message by email, which I have recorded on her behalf. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for all the wonderful messages that you have sent me. It really does mean so much to me, Darcy, Billy, and all of Derek's family. They are an extraordinary comfort, and I am so lucky to feel connected to you all through these messages at this time when the raw pain of grief can be so isolating. And that is the wonderful thing, isn't it, about our Good Morning Britain family? That all of us on the team and all of you watching from home are connected, supporting each other through the challenges of life, knowing that we can also laugh at the fun and joys together that we share too. I am certain that it is the support that you have given me and sent to Derek that has sustained us through these tough nearly 4 years, motivating us to fight on for each other and for those that can't fight for themselves. And it will sustain us to continue that fight in the weeks and months and years to come. I look forward to waking up with you very soon again on Good Morning Britain to celebrate life in all its wonder and challenge again. I hope you forgive me for taking some time to be at home. My family is so grateful that we could be with our dearest Derek in his final moments, something not all get to share. Maybe you too are going through grief yourself or have done in the past. I send love and support to you too. We are taking time to heal ourselves now that Darcy and Billy know their daddy is at peace and free from pain and struggle. I shall be thinking of you all until we are reunited very soon. In the meantime, hug your loved ones close. All my love, Kate. It's absolute classic Kate,
isn't it?
That in a circumstance which is so deeply painful for her and her family, she thinks of absolutely everybody else who might be in the same situation or who has already suffered loss. Kate's unwavering devotion to Derek and her determination to help him recover from the devastating consequences of COVID has, well, imprinted itself on everyone who knows her and also the whole nation, from the royal family to the country's political leaders, and from those who work in medicine, of course, to those who work in showbiz, and to so many of you watching now. Well, along with her regular updates here on Good Morning Britain, Kate shared her struggles through 2 documentaries which highlighted the challenges that any of us would face with a loved one struck down by such a devastating illness. Her bravery and determination to never, ever give up on Derek is truly inspiring, and it is indeed a true love story.
Well done. Absolutely brilliant.
Dedication and devotion, clear for all to see.
I love you, darling. Beautiful boy.
Kate Garraway's care and support for her husband, Derek Draper, was unwavering, inspiring so many. 2 documentaries following the family's difficult journey as he battled to recover from the devastating effects of COVID-19 showed the daily struggles they faced, Kate tackling it with relentless optimism and sense of hope.
He will behave differently and he will be physically different. You know, it may be a rather beautiful thing. I'm trying to look at it as a rather beautiful thing.
The couple married in 2005 after being introduced by a mutual friend. Derek was a key figure in politics as a Labour spin doctor and lobbyist. He later retrained as a psychotherapist. But in 2020, he contracted COVID, the worst case doctors had seen in any surviving patient in the UK. After a year in hospital, Kate adapted their home, fighting for round-the-clock care for her husband. She received high praise from other carers in similar situations. Elton John at a recent concert.
They've been inspiring, and they've never given up.
And from members of the royal family.
I think you're amazing to do this.
Then, just a few months ago, Kate marvelled at her husband's determination to watch her collect an MBE at Windsor Castle, a shared moment of pride between a husband and wife who fought together until the very end.
Well, as I said, we've been inundated by the messages that you have sent us for Kate and the family. And as you just heard in her own words, Kate's so incredibly grateful for your love and support.
Please do feel free to keep sending us all of your thoughts, and we're going to be collecting them all together, whether they come on email or Facebook or Instagram posts or tweets, whatever they come. And we will be passing them on to Kate in a special book of condolence so that she can read them herself. But let's just take a little time this morning just to look back. Dr. Hillary, let's just start with you. Actually, it was you that said that Derek had to go to hospital when this happened in the first case.
Yes, I got a call from Kate one evening at the end of March 2020, and she was very worried about Derek, and I said, shall I speak to him? So I was able to speak to Derek, who was clearly breathless at the time, and I said, Derek, I want you to just try and hold your breath for as long as possible. Let's count how long you can hold your breath. And most of us can last a minute, at least in normal circumstances, and he managed 8 seconds and was very puffed at the end of 8 seconds. I said to Kate, you know, you need an ambulance immediately, straight away. Get him into hospital, get him assessed. And COVID struck him like a bolt of lightning, very acutely. And it was very clear that from the start he had multi-organ disease. So this was not just affecting his heart and his lungs, but his nervous system, his pancreas. And the road to recovery was always going to be a very long, difficult one. And as Kate said, the tunnel just kept getting longer. But her devotion, her resilience was phenomenal. You know, she never let up. She never stopped looking, researching for possible treatments, for better outcomes. And she never stopped thinking about everybody else in similar positions, did she? Well,
it's a testament, isn't it, to the strength of the human spirit.
Absolutely.
And the putting your faith in hope, which is what Kate did from the outset. that he lived for so long, given that he was so terribly ill.
It was nearly 4 years, and you know, she explored absolutely every avenue, every possible level of healthcare and personal care for him. And she continued working. It was incredible. Her professionalism was extraordinary. She was the breadwinner. She had to hold the family together, and she did it. And it was absolutely amazing what she has achieved. She couldn't have done any more. She knows that. Yeah. And I think everybody was in awe of what she achieved during that 4 years.
Yeah. Ranveer, I remember when Kate did I'm a Celebrity, and well, many of us talked to Derek a lot during that period of time. He was on Good Morning Britain. And what struck me was the fierce determination of his love for Kate. He would do anything for her. Yeah. And that was mirrored in her care for him when he needed her most.
Absolutely. And, you know, when anybody passes away, you immediately think, when was the last time I spoke to them? You know, it happens when it happens in our own lives, and I know people at home will remember that, and immediately you think, God, when was the last time I actually... Obviously, we all saw Derek, didn't we, at the MBE lunch at Windsor Castle. But before that, it was just at the pub that Piers normally has his parties at Christmas. And I remember Derek came and Kate was buzzing around because everybody was like, she's back out in the jungle. And it was such a fantastic moment. And the paparazzi were outside. It was a really lovely moment. We were all welcoming her back. And Derek just stood quietly, you know, in the corner, just sort of being the quiet support for her. And I just stood with him. I was chatting. And actually, we talked a little bit about what it was like when Kate was there. And he said, you know, it's my job, you know, this is what I do, I support her, this is my job. But actually we ended up talking about the kids. And I'd been obviously been a single mum, and what was awful, obviously, was that a few months later, Kate would effectively become a single parent, wouldn't she? We didn't know that at the time. But and I said this in my Instagram post, is that even though Derek had a really colourful, brilliant political life, he was such an incredible mind. Actually, I think the legacy that anybody who has kids wants is that you are remembered as being a great parent. Yeah. And I think his actual legacy is how amazing he was with Billy and Darcy. Yeah. And we stood there and he said to me, there's a process called the Hoffman process. I did it for 7 days. It's a retreat. You should do it, Ranveer. It'll make you a better parent. I did it. And Kate would always say to me over the years, he came home and he walked home barefoot after doing this 7 day, because he was into psychology and psychotherapy. And he said it transformed his life and he was encouraging me to do it. And I just remember that he was this powerful presence in the family home, and Kate was the one that was out there being brilliant. He was also... But at home, he was the one.
He was also incredibly funny. I mean, I met him in Australia when I was out there for the ITV2 companion show to Celebrity. And I was by the pool one day with Julie, my wife, and he came around and introduced himself to us. And we ended up having clinky drinks by the pool, because Kate was in the jungle at that point. And it was one of the funniest conversations I can remember having. I can't remember exactly what he said, but he was just...
Probably best not.
Probably best not, absolutely, yes. But he was just incredibly funny and witty and sharp. A really good company. I thought, oh, this is going to be a friendship I'm going to enjoy, you know. But a few weeks later, he was struck down. Yeah.
Laura, Kate's strength, sense of humour in the face of what happened and was happening, the amount of energy she brought to the programme, to her campaigning, despite the fact that she was barely sleeping at night. You know, he required 24-hour care, which was provided, of course, by dedicated carers, including Kate, of course, as well. Just, for anyone who didn't already love Kate with their whole heart, she captured the heart of the nation, didn't she?
And that's the thing, that the tributes are there for Derek, but they're also there for Kate. And she came to work, has been coming to work every single day as the true professional that she is, but not bringing any of that with her to work, making sure she's the true professional, and everybody's still loving her exactly as she is. And when we went to the MBE lunch, as she said, Ranveer, the big thing that I felt there was that Derek had this huge pride for Kate, for how incredible she was because she had received her MBE. But she looked back at him with this equal pride with how strong he was and how hard he'd worked to get there, to be at that lunch. And they both had this love for each other that you could just see in their eyes, looking from one another. And to see that in that room was really special.
You talk about her grit. I mean, as you know, Susanna, the two presenters of the programme, we have a meeting at 5 o'clock every morning, don't we, in your dressing room, to talk about the show and what's on it. And when I have been presenting the last year or two with Kate, when you haven't been here, and I've gone in at 5 in the morning for this meeting, and I've had my 5 or 6 hours sleep, you know, and Kate hasn't slept. She hasn't had an hour's sleep, hasn't had a minute's sleep because it was a disturbed night with Derek. And even though she had a full-time carer, she felt compelled to get up and help and do what she could. So sometimes she was doing this show with no sleep at all. And we know, because she's written about this, and obviously we know internally here, she actually had a nervous collapse one morning when she came in. Not that long ago. She was just absolutely exhausted.
Dr. Hillary, what Kate was always and is always and will continue to always be at pains to point out is that she represents a legion of carers who criminally are not given enough recognition. And I think that there are a lot of carers who are very grateful that she is able to say the unsayable about what it is like to care for a loved one in the face of bureaucracy and admin. I mean, there was an interview that Kate did with Decca Aikenhead in the Sunday Times last year, which I read, having known Kate go through this for 4 years. And I came into work and said, I had no idea. I had no idea just how difficult this is for you. And I thought I knew how difficult it was. But there will be thousands, if not millions of people out there today, this morning, in the same or similar situation.
Yeah, she's definitely taken this issue under her wing. She has experienced at first hand how dedicated, how professional carers are, how they work under really difficult circumstances and how exhausting the work is. And they work for peanuts. They are so underpaid, so undervalued by our society. You know, they often go from one patient to another. They pay for their own transport. They struggle against all that. Sometimes they have to kill some hours in between because they're going from one patient to another, but they're not due to arrive or not paid to get to a destination until a certain time. And they have a huge responsibility. And as I say, they're often on nothing much more than a minimum wage.
And then we have unpaid family carers who simply get a carer's allowance or an attendance allowance, but who, you know, just don't have the funds to be able to supplement the care.
That's right. And they're, you know, throughout the country, they're working endlessly and tirelessly. There aren't enough of them. We're finding it very difficult to recruit people in social care right now for reasons that are quite obvious. But the ones who are there are so dedicated and do such a wonderful job. And many of them, of course, are underpaid. They're relatives, like Kate was, working all hours of the day, struggling with their own families, struggling to hold down a job, to earn income. And we underestimate the value that they have. And I hope, I mean, Kate is doing wonderful sort of campaigning right now for carers, but I hope people take this on board and that we actually support carers better in the future.
Sarah on Facebook says, as a parent of a child living with long COVID since 2021, I've followed Derek and Kate's story and always prayed they find treatment for the debilitating symptoms COVID leaves behind. R.I.P. Derek, my heart goes out to Kate, their children and the rest of the family. They all fought so hard. Kate is an amazing, strong woman.
Cheryl says something that so many of you are saying this morning. She says, my heart is heavy with this tragic news. Derek fought so hard, and Kate's dedication and strength in caring for him was inspirational. I'm sending all my love to Kate, Darcy and Billy and Derek's wider family and friends. And the impact that this saga has had on the nation has been profound, and it's spread into every aspect of society. Sir Tony Blair paid tribute to Derek over the weekend. He said he was a tough, sometimes ruthless political operative, a brilliant advisor, and somebody you always wanted on your side. But underneath that tough exterior, he was a loving, kind, generous and good-natured man that you wanted as a friend.
Gordon Brown said, I will remember him as brilliant, creative and multi-talented. Our thoughts are with Kate, Darcy and Billy. Lord Mandelson said, Derek was a truly remarkable and special person. And my partner and I were so pleased that despite everything he has gone through, he came to our wedding at the end of October, as usual, lighting up the room. He showed talent in everything he turned his hand to. And had he not been so tragically affected by COVID, I could have imagined him pursuing another brilliant career. And Piers writes, he writes this morning, Kate, an astonishingly inspiring woman who worked so heroically hard and so utterly selflessly with such astounding commitment, dedication and loyalty to try to get her man through his nightmare. Their marriage was even more magnificently powerful in the face of such tremendous adversity and it was in the good times, fueled by a mutual love so profoundly deep that few experience anything like it. All of our love to Kate, to Derek's family, to Darcy and Billy, and to all of their friends. And Kate, take as long as you need. Absolutely. What's so typical about her statement is that, firstly, that she has that typical Kate generosity of spirit and selflessness, that she thanks everybody else for their support and their love. And she also knows that she is sort of symbolic, really, representative of other people in exactly the same situation. And in fact, that is reflected in the messages we're getting this morning. June says, to dear Kate, Darcy and Billy, I, along with so many thousands of others, so sad to have heard the news that your darling Derek has lost his battle. Since 2020, I've followed your story and prayed for Derek that he could recover. I lost my mum to COVID in December 2020, and this was within 2 weeks of her being diagnosed, so I know the pain you've gone through. But for someone so young like Derek, it's just heartbreaking.
Kate on Facebook, another Kate, says, thank you, Kate, Derek and children, for the documentary that you made together, which highlighted COVID. You are all an inspiration. Sending you all huge hugs and huge love. And Derek, may you rest in peace, sweet gentleman.
Maria says, listening to Kate delivering this lovely message this morning on Good Morning Britain brought tears to my eyes as I fully understand how the family are going through this, as I myself lost my lovely and dearest husband. She has the most caring empathy towards us all. I send her hugs as she will need them at this difficult time.
Do please keep these messages coming. They mean a lot to everybody, actually, but they'll mean the most, obviously, to Kate and her family.
Nicola says, as a young widow whose husband died in 2021, my heart breaks for Kate, Darcy and Billy. And Nicola says, I read Kate's book during my darkest hours. Her strength inspired me as it did so many. Now I hope she can take strength from us in her darkest hours.
Yeah.
Richard, I was really struck by your Instagram post in the wake of Kate's devastating news, because you simply wrote, by your side always. And you, like Ben, very, very close to Kate. I mean, we all have our special relationship with Kate, but you've known her for a very long time.
23 years we started working together, and it's quite a friendship born of everything, I suppose, that the highs and lows that we've all gone through over the last sort of 2 decades, because obviously we share very public moments with everybody, and the connection that Kate has spoken about in her own statement this morning, the unique connection that we're privileged to have with the people at home. And, of course, we have our very private moments as well. I said after the MB lunch, didn't we, at Windsor, which was a very, very emotional affair. I was sat next to Derek and I was sat opposite Kate, and she gave a typically selfless speech. And it dawned on me that we're the first people that we speak to every morning. So when we come into Good Morning Britain at the crack of a sparrow's cough, we are laid bare, you know, and it's when we have those private moments rather than just being professional colleagues, you know, that friendship really does shine.
Absolutely.
And the unwavering support, and please don't ever underestimate, all of you watching at home, the unwavering support, not just this morning, but over the last 4 years that you have shown the entire family, us as a team, but most importantly, of course, Derek, Billy, Darcy, and our very own Kate is an incredible comfort. Ben flagged it up in his Instagram post as well, didn't he? On Friday, when I got the news, rather poignantly, I was washing my mother's hair, and as many of the team know, I care for my mother once I come off air every morning. And I got a text from Kate, and then I was out and about later in the afternoon, and so many Good Morning Britain viewers came up to me to offer their condolences.
I have to tell you, that's been my experience over the weekend.
Yeah, it's
over
extraordinary.
This weekend, I've barely been able to move outside without people coming up, just wanting to pass on to Kate, through me, their thoughts.
Absolutely, and love is the final word. We said, didn't we,
yes.
Ramveer, you know, where we were all there at the lunch at Windsor, you know, the love that was in the room. And Derek, of course, wasn't in a position to articulate that love, but it was all over him. His face was lit up, you know, the emotion when she was making her speech at that lunch.
So you've known her, and you knew her at the time when she met
Yes.
Derek, then?
Well, I can tell you the wedding was quite a hoolie in 2005, yes.
Oh, just remind us of that,
It was
Richard.
an extraordinary day. A rendition of I Don't Want to Miss a Thing. I remember
because
that
he
song.
sang that on
yes.
one of their first dates.
Right.
She recounts the fact that they didn't really know each other very well. He puts this Aerosmith song on, I Don't Want to Miss a Thing. He gets her up from the sofa and he holds her there, staring into her eyes for the entire length of the track. She says, oh, my goodness, I didn't know what was going on.
I don't think Kate did either. I think even she thought it would be the most unlikely coupling, but...
It was the beginning. He was the absolute perfect match for her. They seemed incompatible because he was so bullish, so bolshy, but hugely charismatic. She is so considerate, compassionate, thinking of others all of the time.
A complete whirlwind.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you don't want to look in a handbag, do you? It's a complete nightmare. But
you certainly don't.
It's a wonderful character.
I remember when I very first met Derek in Australia, when Kate was in the jungle and I was out there working for ITV. And he came and introduced himself. And although he was extremely funny and witty, the other thing I should have mentioned earlier was his fierce pride in the way that Kate was performing in the jungle.
Yes.
And he had every detail up there in his head and he was basically replaying her finest moments in the series so far. He was fiercely proud of her.
Yeah. But, you know, it's quite interesting because you were talking there about all the messages we're getting in, and it is obviously COVID-related, but Kate became and remains so, I'm sure she will want to continue to remain so, a symbol about carers beyond COVID, because February last year, Kate came out to the Brits with me. We got in the taxi. I said, right, I'm going to pick you up. We're going to go to the Brits. And she got in the car and she said, you know, and she'd been toying with, can I go, can't I go? I mean, and she said, do you know, Ranveer? She said, we were in the taxi arriving at the venue and she said, this is the first time in 3 years that I've done something that isn't related to work, the children or Derek. In 3 years. She said, this is the first time I've done something that isn't about that. And then you realise that that is what carers' lives are. Carers, there is a silent army of carers across the country, and Kate has become the voice for this. As you said, we know her, but then there are moments that are revealed to us that we go, God, I didn't realise it was like that. And I didn't realise it was that heavy all the time, and that, you know, that adrenaline, that cortisol that she talks about in a book, you know, living in a sort of constant crisis mode and also all the time.
And guilty all the time.
Guilty.
You feel guilty when you're there, even if you're there 24/7, you feel guilty if you're not. So for Kate to shine a light on that profession so often unsung and obviously very much underpaid is a legacy from what has been an incredibly heartbreaking 4 years for her.
Well said. Thank you very much indeed.